How's it going, YouTube? My name is Elbadinja7, your resident Mistweaver monk, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Tier of Morning raid build. So how to improve with the Tier of Morning raid healing. Now, obviously, I have a couple notes that I'm going to go over at first and then kind of walk through some of them. But then obviously we have a VOD on screen. Now, I am currently progging Tendril. So Mythic Tendril, we have not killed the boss. We have seen phase 3 a couple of times. But I feel like in this video, there's enough to talk about to where it can be a learning experience. However, you're gonna see a couple of mistakes, a couple things that I probably don't do anymore, and some things that we're gonna recognize should probably be changed and optimized. But as you can see below me, this was taken from the first. We've had a full week since then, but with every raid night, I feel like I've learned how to optimize this fight or how to heal it a little bit more. And there's going to be more of an emphasis in this video on the downtime, so the time outside of your Yulon ramps, because this is the question that I probably get asked the most, is what do we do in raid healing outside of our Yulon ramps? Because for a lot of times you just feel helpless, like you're not doing much healing, but we're going to try to fix that today. Now, first things first is I want to get this out of the way. If you're in a guild that is progging on a boss, like say you're progging on Smolderon or Laradar or whatever boss you're on, and you're going pool by pool and you're wiping and wiping and wiping, and you start to see that sometimes you're consistently at the top, sometimes you're below, like your Disc Priest or your Resto Druid, for example, and you're wondering, why am I so inconsistent? Why am I not doing this much healing? Just understand that as a Mistweaver monk, we are a ramping playstyle, and the majority, a lot of our healing comes during our Yulon ramp windows, which means that if you're wiping at during like downtime or right before your Yulon ramp, you're gonna see pools where you kind of just like are floundering toward the bottom of the healing list, and that's fine, that's expected. Now, the number one rule, this is going to be the most obvious thing I've ever said, trust me, but the number one rule is to stay alive and do mechanics. The amount of times that I've risked soaking a beam on this fight, for example, to just get a couple more casts off during my ramp and died for it and possibly wiped the raid is honestly way more than it should be. And I've learned through, at this point, hundreds of pools on this boss in particular, that playing it safe is BIS. It's better to sidestep a beam during your ramp than get that one cast off and risk maybe like not dying with a defensive up. So although it can be very inconvenient to move during your ramp, trust me, in the long run, it will be more worth it because you'll at least live and see the next ramp. Now that's the stupidest thing I've ever said, but I feel like I have to say it. I feel like that's good advice and something that I needed to teach myself. Now, to start this video or to start this little breakdown, we're going to talk about the pre-pool. Now, the pre-pool on most bosses looks very similar. However, it can change depending on where your group needs your Yulon ramp, like your first Yulon ramp, for example. It can change fight to fight, and it can also just change based on what you prefer. Obviously, there's always going to be a more optimal answer, but for the most part, you can kind of just like test it out through all of your pools. Now, what do I mean by pre-pool? I mean, during this 15 seconds where everyone's just AFK, maybe dancing, emoting, or whatever they're doing, we actually have a job, okay? Number one, I've said this in my guide video, so you've probably heard this before, but it's a good refresher, I promise. Number one is you want to make sure that before the pool, you just have your Jade Serpent statue out. This is going to exist or persist for 15 minutes, so basically the entire fight, as long as you're on this platform or in this zone or in range of it. And it's just passive throughput. It's just numbers on top of numbers. So it's just good to always have that out. But number two is between pools, you want to make sure that you stack up your mana tea. Now, right once we pool the boss, all of these stacks go away. So it might seem useless. It might seem like it doesn't matter coming into a pool with mana tea stacks. But the trick here is that we're going to start drinking, well, first at about 8 seconds on the pool timer, we're going to press our one charge of Renewing Mist. The reason being is because it has an 8-second recharge. So by the time we pull the boss, we'll basically have a free Renewing Mist on someone and have both of our Renewing Mist charges. So number one is Jade Serpent statue. Number two is have Mana Tea stacks ready. And then number three is at 8 seconds in the pool timer, we're going to Renewing Mist someone. And I'm pretty sure, try to make sure it's someone who's close by you, because I think like every other pool, our rogue would like sidestep or be dancing around, and I would just miss him because we're ranged. But at about 8 seconds, you're going to see me renewing mist and then start drinking my mana tea. And then instantly drinking my mana tea. So watch my stacks. Right now, I'm at 14 stacks, and we're going to be drinking those away. And right once the boss pools, it's going to get cut to 0. But we still get to drink that full duration. We're still channeling. So if we pull the boss right once we start sipping, it would show 0 stacks, but we would drink for the full duration. So the purpose is, yes, we lose all those stacks, but as long as we're drinking as the boss is pooled, we gain that full duration of mana tea. You see here we have a free 18 seconds. I paused it at 16 seconds, but we have a free 16 seconds coming into the fight of mana tea or mana reduction. So we can be 16 seconds into the fight with this much mana as opposed to this much mana. Like, you know, it can be the difference of 80% versus like 60%, for example. So it's always good just to have that. It's literally free, so why not? But then going here, right now, this is what I was talking about, your first Yulon ramp. So we have my first Yulon ramp assigned basically on pool. It's at 3 seconds, but basically on pool. And for some fights, you might have your first Yulon ramp assigned for 15 seconds into the pool. So if that's the case, if it's 15 seconds into the pool, then you can start to kind of like backtrack your cooldowns. What I mean by that is if your first Yulon ramp is 15 seconds into the pool, then 30 seconds before that would be right once that 15-second countdown timer starts. So you can get basically a free Thunder Focus tee off that way. Or if your first Yulon ramp is at 30 seconds into the fight, then you can get a Thunder Focus tee on pool, and then right once your Thunder Focus tee is up again, you can press Thunder Focus tee, press Yulon, start casting your Yulon spells that way. So you can really start to optimize your timers at the start of a pool, at least for the first couple of pools, and just get those down. So that's the easy part, is learning when your Yulon ramps are, because most of the time they're assigned. But here for Yulon ramps, I'm not going to go over it that much, but I'm just chasing those Chi Harmony buffs. But it's okay to cast Chi Harmony on, or to cast Enveloping Mist on people that don't have Chi Harmony every now and then, because look, right here it would have been more optimal. Instead of Enveloping Mist this guy who already had the Enveloping Breath white border buff, you want to try to spread that Enveloping Breath. So it would have been more optimal if I just hit someone that did not have Enveloping Breath. So now going forward, I know that these two healers are going to be standing out here and ranged. So if I keep Enveloping Breathing like only people in this little pack here on pool, then I know that these guys are not going to be blanketed by Enveloping Breath. So that's just something, a mental note that from watching my own gameplay back, I know for the future. But we're going to play this out. Now, this is how I've learned to do this first ramp. So I cast, and I cast, and I cast until this first beam comes out. So I'll cast all of my Enveloping Mists, and then right once that first beam comes out, I think, is it coming at me? If yes, move, and then Soothing Mist. If no, it's okay to channel on a Soothing Mist on someone. So right once that first beam spawns, I see if I need to move. If either way, I channel Soothing Mist, but I move if I need to. And then that's how I do that first ramp. But now we're getting to the good part, because the good part is the downtime. This is the part where, look, anyone can do a Yulon ramp, especially if you get a couple pulls in and practice with this build. Everyone can do that. It's what you do outside of the Yulon ramp that really matters and can really bump your numbers up. So there are a couple little notes that we're going to make right here. So number one, these are my notes for the downtime. Number one, your first priority is mana tea uptime. Now, obviously, you can technically drink all 20 stacks like we did pre-pool, but we can drink all 20 stacks at once, or we can break it up into sipping a couple seconds and then casting a couple seconds, sipping a cap, like you can cycle between that. The most optimal way to do it is to do that. The second option is to sip for like 5 seconds and then cast a couple spells, sip for a few seconds, cast some big mana spells. But there are some fights where there is some absolute downtime, meaning like some intermissions, like some blank space where no one's taking damage, no one's about to take damage, and you have like literally 20 whole seconds. This is one of those fights where you'll see me not drink a full stack of 20 when there's absolute downtime, and that's something that will change in the future. But for the most part, your downtime is the best window to have mana tea uptime as much as possible. And that's because Yulon makes your enveloping mist cost less mana. So Yulon is already a pretty mana efficient window because you're going to be having a free mana reduction. And if you mana tea coming into your Yulon, yes, it is technically more efficient, but it is a less efficient way to use that mana tea mana reduction buff because you're just getting less mana return from that. But you want to make sure during your downtime, if you're getting close to 20 stacks, just sip a few and then get back to casting. It'll be more optimal and get you more like longevity on your mana bar. The other two things that are like honestly very obvious, or at least one of them is obviously we do not ever want to touch 2 stacks of renewing mist. It's okay to briefly touch it if you know you're about to come up on a part where you're gonna want to cast them both. But for the most part, you should know by now, this is the easy part. Like, I get a lot of people messaging me. I know not to sit at 2 renewing mist charges. I know that. But beyond that, what do I do? So that's the easy part. Another thing that you want to try to have as much uptime as possible on is your Jade Serpent statue. So I have a weak aura. It shows me when my Jade Serpent statue is basically AFK, meaning I have not soothing misted anyone in the past couple seconds, and that tether between the Jade Serpent statue and someone has fallen off. And this is even more important if you're taking the Unison talent, because if you're taking the Unison talent, then the Jade Serpent statue is not only tethered to one person, but a second person as well for reduced effect. And if you're taking that talent and not keeping as much uptime on this Jade Serpent statue tether as possible, then you're just losing out on a lot of efficiency. So that is another thing that on top of your renewing mist charges is something that you should think about optimizing. Now, for the most part, you can accidentally have good uptime on this because we're playing a build where we're channeling Soothing Mist and spamming Vivifies quite often. However, there's a lot of times, like right before you move, like you're going to see me here in a second, we're going to move. We're going to just do a big move, and I'm going to stop. I think on this pull, I do stop. Oh God, that's embarrassing. No free sponsorships. As we move, sometimes I'll stop, stutter step to just quickly tap Soothing Mist on someone just to reapply this free hot. But let's go and look. I'm sorry, I paused for a long time. One thing to note, we don't have Yulon ready. We do have Revival, but it's scheduled for a bit, so I can't press Revival. However, there's big incoming damage up. So during our downtime, what's something that we can do when we obviously can't Yulon? We don't have a lot of Shayloon's gift stacks. We have a miniature Yulon in Seedling. So if you don't have this trinket, you're about to see why people love this trinket so much. So right there, I pressed the seedling. Let me reduce the volume a bit. But during this downtime, I pressed my seedling as a mini Yulon because it does solid throughput. So right here, right after my Dispel, I summon the seedling, and then I start healing into it. And you'll notice that our healing jumps up quite a bit during this little guy's duration because he does solid healing. Now, if you don't know how the seedling works, basically, if you channel or if you cast a Vivify into the seedling and say that Vivify does 100,000 healing, it'll spread that 100,000 healing onto people that need it. So it's reducing your overhealing. Instead of putting all that Vivify into one person, it's going to cleave onto whoever needs it. You're also going to be getting Invigorating Mist stacks because you're casting Vivify, so you're spread healing, even more healing that way. But also he amplifies the healing too. So he'll make you do extra healing up to a certain amount. So it's just really solid throughput during the downtime. Now, on this run is where I was talking, there's a lot of downtime. Yes, there is some missing health bars, but we are not under threat. I don't need to top these guys up immediately, and I know we're coming up on a part where I'm going to be casting a lot of spells. So what you'll see me do is I channel my entire Mana Tea here, but once again, this is not the optimal use of it. Also, you see me press Essence Font because once again, no damage coming out, and I know I'm about to Revival. This is not something I recommend. I've actually stopped doing this since then, but the purpose here, why I was doing it, was because I knew that right now it would not be worth it to start channeling a Soothing Mist on anyone. We're coming over with very low Renewing Mist stacks, and I know I'm about to Revival. That Revival would hit a Mastery proc on everyone. The Essence Font would then double the Mastery proc. That was the idea, the concept, but once again, this is not worth it. Our Mastery proc already does shit all, so it's not worth it. And you see here, yeah, we're about to die to this beam, but we move, we get out of dodge. But right here, I'll go ahead and play it again. We're coming up on a part where we're about to revival and then Yulon. So I'm about to cast Shaylun's Gift. This is such an important optimization. If you are not using Shaylun's Gift before your Yulon ramps, I went back and I watched like the first 100 pools of mine. Not all 100 went this far, trust me. We wiped in the first 5 seconds about half the time, but a lot of the pools I was not Shaylun's gifting here. I would sit at 10 stacks or get up to 10 stacks, but I just figured after watching myself back, I need to just rip it here so that I have the Show's Lesson buff coming into my 2 major cooldowns. So you'll see me rip it. It does solid throughput. I should have moved before ripping it to just be more safe, but we rip it. We press revival. We get solid healing. We jump up in the health or the HPS meters. But once again, we're on that downtime again. You see me sipping a couple of stacks of Mana Tea because I knew I was about to summon Yulon. Once again, I'm not trying to get the Mana Tea buff for the entire duration of Yulon because that whole window is very mana efficient. However, actually summoning Yulon costs a lot of mana. So you want to drink like 1 or 2 stacks, then summon Yulon. And then now we're coming up on the ramp again. However, I want to touch on this for those of you who are progging on Tendril. For the first like 100 pools, I was summoning Yulon after this Dispel and after a couple seconds. However, I would come onto platform 2 with my third Yulon still having like 10 seconds left on its timer. So what I started doing was I started summoning it right before I Dispelled. And yeah, you lose some efficiency on this Yulon, but you gain better uptime on the next one. So it's looking ahead in the future better. So yeah, here we are again in another Yulon ramp. Don't really need to talk about this one much. We use our Thunder Focus Tea since it was up after our Yulon. We use it during our Yulon to get Enveloping Mist. And right there we get bad RNG. The person that I chose to Soothing Mist actually died. So we get bad RNG. It's a big fail. But hopefully you're going to get to see more downtime, because the downtime's the good stuff, but I feel like I've touched on most of it to begin with. So while we do the worst flight you'll ever see, trust me, this is bad, let me talk about some other things. So I've talked about your Mana Tea uptime, but one thing I did not touch on was using Thunder Focus Tea right once it comes off cooldown. I said this in my guide, but it's very important. Since your Yulon has a 1-minute timer, you're going to be using it on one, like basically once Yulon comes up. If you Thunder Focus Tea right before this Yulon, you'll get another one to split this 1-minute interval. So you want to Thunder Focus Tea once every 30 seconds. So if you Yulon once every minute, it'll be more worth it. So we're entering in another Yulon ramp. Once again, I Shaylun's Gifted beforehand. I sacrificed some uptime on Yulon to Shaylun's Gift beforehand, spam a few Enveloping Mists, and then channel Soothing Mist to cleave all those Vivifies. And look at the HPS meters. After those 2 ramps, we are absolutely blasting. But we're entering in to another phase of downtime. And once again, this is the good part. So what we did was we channeled a Mana Tea after that ramp. We should not have channeled the entire thing. What I should have done is at the end of this, right once I hear that bing, that this intermission's over, I should channel about half of the stacks and then start spreading Enveloping Mists on people. The reason being is because I know that this falling star is coming, and I want to have as many hots as possible as I can for that incoming damage. So I want to be using, like, I should have stopped my Mana Tea right now, cast both of my Renewing Mist charges, and then cast as many Enveloping Mists as I can right before that damage happens, and then choose a target to Soothing Mist channel and spam Vivifies into. So the reason being, once again, is because every Enveloping Mist spawns another Renewing Mist, so it'll up our count of Renewing Mist for when the damage actually comes in, but it would also have a good Enveloping Mist count, which, since we're running Tear of Mourning, our Enveloping Mist count during downtime actually matters. The more Enveloping Mist you have, the more Renewing Mist you have, the more healing you're going to be doing. So it's 100% fine to not channel a Soothing Mist and cast things, but to just spread Enveloping Mist during downtime on as many people as you can. Because once again, all that healing is going to be cleaving big time. But you see here, this was a bad part of the fight, I handled that very bad. If I could go back and change something, that would be one of the things, is I would reduce the duration of my Mana Tea channel and instead capitalize on those Mana Tea stacks by getting some very high value healing casts. However, you see here, since I was so delayed on drinking that whole Mana Tea, all of these green numbers, these big 50,000 big crit healing, they're going to waste because they're going into full health bars. So once again, optimizing your downtime is understanding you don't have to drink a ton of Mana Tea stacks, but it's good to drink a few once every few seconds to refresh that duration. But also understanding right before incoming damage comes out, yes, we are not Yulon ramping, but getting miniature enveloping mist ramps out can just really enhance your Tear of Mourning, which is the main thing we're playing around. So now we're going to come up on another part where there is more incoming damage. It's another route, and you see here, just like in phase 1, this is another good part, or another good point to summon my trinket and use it as a miniature cooldown. So once again, this only goes for people who have this trinket, but if you don't, I highly recommend farming it because it just blasts healing. Like, it has so much healing. You see there on the health meters, we're stuck here at about 330k HPS. And then right once I summon and start healing into this guy, all that healing is getting funneled into health bars that need it. So it's not like I'm wasting healing going into this guy. It's getting amplified and redirected into sources that need it. And you'll see me go from 334k. Once we get those healing procs loaded, we jump up about 10,000 HPS, which is crazy. So yeah, that trinket's amazing. But then you see me use my Thunder Focus Tea. They're very delayed. I should have used this right before I summoned the seedling so that it's up for my next Yulon. But here we're coming up on another instance. Once again, a lot of this is repetition, but it's basically rinse and repeat of certain cycles of gameplay. We're coming up on another scenario. Once again, my Mana Tea, I'm sitting at a ton of stacks, so I should have taken those previous few seconds after my trinket despawned to drink a couple of sips, a couple of seconds, and done that same thing. I'm basically just a few steps behind on this pool on platform 2, where this falling star is gonna fall. I have a moderate amount of renewing mist. I have 0 enveloping mist. Well, I guess I have 1 that I'm channeling on right now, but we just have very low hot count for this incoming damage. So yeah, I should have once again drank a few stacks of Mana Tea, cast a couple of enveloping mist around, and then capitalize on all these missing health bars. But what I was going to say is we're coming up on another phase again where I have a couple of Shayloon's Gift stacks. I also know I'm about to have to press Revival, or I guess in this case Restoral, and Yulon in the next like 20 seconds or so. So if I Shayloon's Gift here, so right once this falling star hits, once again, I should already have the HOTS pre-applied, and then that falling star hits, I should be casting Shayloon's Gift into a health bar that would sponge up all that giant chunk of healing. And not only would we get big healing from Shayloon's Gift itself, but that revival that I just pressed would hit harder in most cases, and also this Yulon window would be better. So once again, your downtime, just to summary while we watch the rest of this pool, your downtime, a lot of it is prepping for your next uptime. You have to think a couple steps ahead, and it takes pools on a boss, it takes repetition on a boss, but once you start to tweak and think of it like that way, it makes the downtime a lot easier. But during your downtime, I have a couple of rules, and I'll go ahead and pull them on screen, so flashbang warning because it is on Notepad. But I'll go ahead and pull them on screen. Once again, we talked about our pre-pool. There are some that I didn't even touch on. But we talked about wiping for your ramps. Don't let it discourage you because most of your healing comes during your ramps. And then during downtime, you really want to optimize your Mana Tea uptime. And you want to use your Thunder Focus Tea on that 30-second interval. And then also, I touched on the seedling, how important it is during your downtime. If you're someone that's using your seedling during your ramps, you're really cutting yourself short by a lot. And then some of you salesmen have probably seen this always be closing, this ABC of sales. No, ours is always be casting. Now we have a lot of very good things to cast. Once again, your renewing mist charges. You always want to make sure you're not full on those. You also want to try to have good soothing mist uptime is another little mini game that you can manage. And then you're not only managing your renewing mist count, you're also managing your enveloping mist count because that's very important for Tear of Morning. Yes, Tear of Morning makes your Vivify Cleave a little bit harder, but more importantly, it makes your enveloping mist hot, which heals so much. Cleave onto your renewing mist, and that is very important for optimizing this playstyle. And then something that I did not even touch on, but if you're channeling a soothing mist into someone and you top them up, or maybe you start a channel and before you can even get that second vivify off, like say you vivify someone and then they get like flash healed by your priest or holy shock by your paladin or something, they get healed by someone else and you're still channeling a soothing mist. It's worth it a lot of the time to just cast an enveloping mist onto that person, because not only, yes, you're basically healing a full health person, but you're already channeling a soothing mist, so the time it takes to use that next global cooldown to cast an instant enveloping mist into them will be worth it because of the cleave healing it's going to do and the renewing mist that it's going to spawn. So if you're about to detether or detach from someone because they're full health, or your last global into them that does healing, a lot of times it's good to make that be an enveloping mist. Also, to touch on, it will be mana reduce because we're playing Cloud of Focus, and one of the big drawbacks to enveloping mist is how expensive it is on mana. But this is just another way to optimize your enveloping mist. Is right before you unattach to someone, just slam an enveloping mist on them. And then also, I didn't even talk about it that much because I've hopefully hammered it into your heads at this point. But as much as you can, chase Chi Harmony. So chase that RNG. So let's go back a couple seconds and hopefully I do it in this clip, but it's not the end all be all to only heal people with Chi Harmonies. It will add a lot of throughput to you. For example, hopefully I do it here, but right now, if I were to choose someone to heal, Santa Banana is the perfect person because one, he is low health, and two, he has a Chi Harmony on him. That Chi Harmony will make him take more healing, making us do more healing because it makes him take 50% more. But also, after he's topped up, all of that healing, a portion of it will be stored and dispersed onto all these other people that are missing health and have renewing mists. So it's just a lot of times your most optimal person in a lot of cases, but not all cases, is going to be someone with a Chi Harmony buff on them. So chase that RNG is what I'm trying to say. Once again, number one rule is to stay alive, and I didn't even say this, but number two rule is to screen record. Like I said, I have learned so much this year from watching my own VODs back. Not even my videos, but the stuff that I kind of just like my prog pools, my wipes. I learned all the mistakes that I was making. So watching back, if you're someone who your raid lead consistently gets mad at, me, I was that person, or I might still be, hopefully not. Watch your VODs back because you're probably missing a mechanic. You probably noticed it if you're someone who's pulling Tendril. But in this pool, I didn't soak a seed. These seeds that spawn, I didn't even soak. But after watching this VOD back and prepping for this video in particular, oh my goodness, I have not missed a single seed. So things like this make you a better mechanics player, but also can help you heal. Because on the first 100 pools or so, my timings, my seedling, my Thunder Focus Tea, even my Yulon timings was bad, and it was causing me to miss out on about 40,000 of this HPS. So all of these tips, hopefully this was everything. The only reason why I pulled this notepad over is because I knew that I missed some points, and I wanted to make sure that you guys got the full explanation. But hopefully this helped you, and also hopefully if you're someone who's progging on Tendril, hopefully this helped you. Hopefully your mana bars look better than mine do. I'll tell you right now, mine do nowadays. This was over a week ago. my mana looks a lot better. But hopefully this video helped you guys. I could ramble on, and maybe you guys want another episode like this. And if you're looking for something along these lines, then I have more videos. I'll link my guide video. You've probably already seen it, but I'll link it just in case. And I'll also link my episode number 1 in a series that I'm doing, where I talk through pools, kind of like I did here, where I talk through Tendril, but it's bosses that I've killed, and I talk through pools on bosses that I've killed, basically, and how I heal them and how you can heal them, and some things that I've learned through progging. So hopefully this video kind of falls in that series for Tendril. But once again, I have not killed him yet. But I'll link all that down in the description below. So check those out if you're still looking for more. And if you still need more, feel free to hit me up on Discord. I have a Discord that's in the description below, but you can send me a personal message as well, and I'll be willing to help you guys. But if you're wondering how to support this channel and allow me to make more videos like this in the future, the #1 way is by checking out my Patreon. There are a ton of different tiers that you can choose to support. So please click on that link, check it out, and see if there's one that is right for you. Also, subscribing to this channel and liking this video can help this video be seen by more people who might need this video. They might need a little extra help, or to see some of my mistakes or some of the things that I am doing that they don't know to do. So make sure and do all those things. And if you know a Mistweaver in your guild that's struggling, then feel free to send this video to them and get me in contact with them. And I can either help them or find them someone better than myself to help them as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much to the patrons. Once again, you guys are the reason why I'm able to make these videos today. Without these guys, like without my Patreon, I would not be here making videos. So thank you so much. Thank you to my subscribers and to everyone who's hung out with me on Twitch recently. Check out that link down in the description if you want to catch me live. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you guys learned something from this video. But guys, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.